Now we're going to show how to set up for making the actual Gans. This setup is for making CH3 Gans. On this side we have a nano coated copper plate, and here we have zinc coated wire, which is chicken wire, and you can see the CH3 Gans forming in there. This is a bubbler for aquariums, and when this is plugged in, it puts in a constant supply of air that speeds up the Gans making process. This is an LED light that is a resistor that puts resistance into this flow here so that the Gans is formed more slowly, but it's of a better quality. Now over here we have the setup for making CO2 Gans. On this side is a zinc plate. On this side is a nano-coated copper plate. Same setup here in the middle with the LED light. For making this Gans, you put 1/3 of a cup of salt in here. This is just regular salt, non-iodized. This is non-iodized salt. And then you put 1 gallon of water in there, along with a bubbler. And after a couple of days, you'll start seeing the white Gans beginning to form. Eventually, after a week or 2 weeks, you'll start seeing amino acid forming on top, which is a shiny, oily looking substance that you can collect off of there with a spoon and put it in water and add that to your Gans mixtures that are being used on people, because the amino acid makes a connection with the human body. Okay, now for making the Gans of metals, as you can see here, we have 2 metal plates wired together by a nano-coated copper wire. This one is zinc, this one is copper. This one is nano-coated, this one is not. This is the process for making CO2 Gans. While these are in process, things will go faster if you use a bubbler like this for a fish aquarium. Plug it in and just have the hose in here so that it oxygenates and moves the water. Same here. Now for the copper oxide Gans, it's the same process. This plate is nano-coated, this plate is not nano-coated. And it's the same thing for doing zinc oxide. One plate is nano-coated, one plate is not nano-coated. They're both zinc oxide. Now, to do this process, you put your plates in your container, then you add salt. And I use non-iodized salt. You can use various different salts, and like if you use a magnesium salt, it will slightly change the character of the Gans. You use about 1/4 to 1/2 cup, depending on the size of your container and how much water you're going to put in there, of salt, and then you fill it up with water, or to the height you're comfortable with, and put your bubbler in and just let it go. It usually takes a couple of days before you see the Gans forming, and this one that I'm doing for copper oxide has been running for about 2 weeks. This one has been running, this one with the CO2 has been running for about 5 days. I anticipate that I will let the CO2 run for another probably 2 weeks, and the copper oxide will run probably for another 2 weeks more also, and then they will be rinsed. You pour the water off, leaving the Gans in the bottom. You put in clean distilled water, let it settle, and pour the water off. You do that until you can taste no salt. Just stick your finger in it, taste it, and if there's no salt, then you're fine. At that point, you pour most of the water off, and then pour the rest of what you have left into a container, rinsing this container with distilled water, and then you put a cap on it and let it settle. If there's not enough water in there, then you fill it up with the water that you're going to use. You leave the Gans always in the bottom of your jar and only use the water that's on top. Okay, this is the finished product of CO2 Gans, this process. You can see the Gans in the bottom and the clear water on top. When you stir it up, you get this turbid material floating. That's the Gans charging the water. The Gans will then settle, and the water is what we use. This is the Gans of an herbal mix that I'm making. This is in process. That's why it's not clear on top. This is a combination of herbs in here that's mixed with an equal amount of the same caustic material, the sodium hydroxide or lye, and then with warm water added and stirred up, and it usually goes for about 2 weeks. It just leave it in here for about 2 weeks, shaking it up daily. And that's all there is to that. When it's finally done, you have to rinse it, and you'll pour off the top water and put in clean distilled water, let it settle, pour that off, repeat the process over and over until you check it with pH paper, and it checks to be anywhere between 7 and 8, pretty much neutral. This is the Gans, finished Gans of bamboo Korean salt. And you can see the residue in the bottom and the clear water on top. This is the water that we use. This one is calcium made from bone. The water on top is what we use. The calcium just always stays there in the bottom. As we stir it up, you can see that it's a turbid material that is very light and floats. This one is another herbal mixture. There's about 7 or 8 different herbal varieties in here, and this was made with the same process. And this is the water on top is what we use after it settles. We let it settle and then we pull the water off and use that. Okay, this is some of the finished product of our process. This is our plasma energy station with vials of the different Gans waters that we have made all around the outside edges and water on the inside. The plasmatic fields from the vials all the way around the outside penetrate through the plastic container and charge the water with the plasmatic fields of their energies. This is the water that we use to drink, to cook with. We give it to our cats, and we water plants with it. There are many other uses for it, which then we'll talk about. These are some of the, you can see there's a vial. What happened to the vial? Here in the bottom, there's a vial in there, and this is CH3 water. All of this is part of a process that I'm using for diabetes. This is the CO2 water. There's a vial in there of the CO2, and the water on top is what I drink. This is a combination that we use when we feel a cold coming on. We just drink the water. It's a combination of copper oxide, CO2, and CH3, and zinc. You can see that Gans floating in there that charges the water. After it settles, we drink the water.